Okay, so I'm just fixing my hairstyle. Sorry there, guys. Good morning and welcome. I'm Stuart, Calder. I'm VP for Sales and Marketing here at Netready. Thank you so much for dedicating your time and joining us for another informative session with myself and my co-host or guest. What are we?
Cohort.
Cohort, okay. Richard Sletcher. Richard?
Nice to see you again, Stuart.
How are you going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, I like the haircut.
Yes, I know. I had this particular haircut. That one.
That one strand.
Just that one hair. Wonder why it's called a haircut, not
hairs cut.
hairs cut.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're cutting multiple hairs here. You know?
We need to speak to the industry.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe they can
It's
hear
called
it through.
it hairs cut.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're speaking about another important topic within multi-level marketing. Most industries actually, but we're honing in on our industry, which is multi-level marketing, and we're speaking about warehousing and logistics. There's a wealth of experience and knowledge within the space, and he's sitting right next to me, and we're going to get into that. But Richard, let's actually take. Oh, before we do that, we've got this background here. And we always want to address these kinds of things.
Yeah, these guys are amazing.
Yeah.
They've got an incredible product range. They just went through their first launch meeting, which was great.
Yeah.
We had a lot
Beautiful.
of people there. It was fantastic. And
Yeah.
I must say two things. One, Tian just blew me away.
Yeah,
He's
wow.
the owner
Sure.
of the company, and I was like amazed at how he performed.
Yeah.
And the second thing is their products. I mean, I was completely and utterly floored
Yeah.
by their products. And certainly we are, Heike and I, definitely going to become customers of this particular company.
Yeah. It's just doing so much to heal, your ailments and just provide a better you. I think one of the things he says is, maybe you're living your life at 20%.
And you don't know it because you never
think it's-
experienced anything else.
You think it's your 100%.
Yeah,
But when you
exactly.
start accessing, you start using the nutrients from plants to. Now, this
Yeah,
is our pitch now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
but I
yes.
must say, I sat there completely in awe of what he was doing,
Yeah.
And so every now and then somebody comes across your path that you think, wow, this is just like amazing.
Yeah.
And, we've been working with him. So, you get to know him as a person.
Sure. Yeah.
But we'd never experienced him up in front of a crowd. And
Yeah.
it was just like, whoa.
Yeah. It blew
Who
my
is this
mind.
guy and what have
Yeah.
you done with Tian? It's like,
Yeah.
come on,
And the fact that it's an Australian company,
Yeah.
based company, but because Tian's here, he negotiated the right to launch nanonutrients here in South Africa.
First,
So
yeah.
I mean, how many big MLM companies? Talk about the Avons and the Amways of the world. They started out in the States.
Yeah.
And anyone who comes into the network in South Africa, they're falling in the masses of this network.
Yeah, I know.
But for nanonutrients, these guys are going to be a global business, and they're giving South Africans the opportunity to be right at the top.
No, it's very exciting. I'm totally and utterly besotted with this particular business. I think they're doing a great job, and I think their products are amazing, and I think they've got a huge future. And so we were involved in their launch strategy here, and it rolls directly into what we're going to be talking to today, which is the logistics side of the business.
Yeah.
Because that is such a big part for them, because they are bringing in the bulk from overseas, they're bottling it here. So there's an entire logistics play that they're at work with, which we're discussing with them at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
And that kind of led you to say, well, why don't we do that for our Facebook Live event today? So yeah.
It's been such a hot topic within Netready at the moment. We're exploring all these things, and we actually understanding all the intricacies involved with managing warehouses and doing the fulfillment and the logistics behind it. It's a serious process, and if anyone doesn't have experience within the space, it's a very daunting operation for them to get involved in. So yeah. So let's.
Well, one of the challenges is that you bring a client in who's got a fantastic product and a great idea. And because of the power of network marketing, multi-level marketing, they go from 0 to 25 million rand a month turnover, which is what's happened to a couple of our clients now, within a 6 or 8 month period. Not only are they having to deal with all of the background of having to manufacture the products at scale, but now they've got to deal with all of the fulfillment stuff. And so it is crushing in terms of how to get all of that together. It's crushing for the guys. And so what ends up happening, like one of our clients, literally their product was walking out the door because they had no controls, they had no systems in process, they had people, because of the incredible pressure that was brought to bear in a very, very short space of time, they were just onboarding staff and they weren't vetting the staff, and what was happening is that the guys they were bringing in were stealing them blind.
Yeah, I remember
Literally.
they were hiding products behind the shelves, and they were just, I mean, it was...
Well, out the back door by the dustbin area.
Yeah.
So what would happen is they'd go and take boxes of products and hide them with all the cartons, because you can imagine how much cartons and boxes and things, when you're doing 25 million rand a month in turnover, you got masses of cardboard and boxes, and they would hide the products inside the cardboard.
Yeah.
So they take the stuff out to the rubbish bin with all their products in it. Their mates, they'd phone their mates and say, hey, listen, the stuff's out there.
Yeah.
Their mates would come and collect the stuff and walk off with it, and they lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rands of the product.
Never misjudge people how clever they are to be able to pull something like that off.
Yeah, and look, if you don't have controls and checks and balances in place, you're asking for it.
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, guys, here's a free-for-all, go for it.
Yeah.
And so they were being robbed blind because they had no systems in place. And it just made me realize how absolutely critically important proper warehousing practices are. And certainly from a Netready standpoint of view, how important it is for us to guide our clients in terms of having proper warehousing strategies in place. Because, look, if the business fails, okay, any warehousing option is perfect.
Right, yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The problem is that these businesses have two states. They have tank and they have exponential growth. There's no in between. There doesn't seem to be a limp-along type network marketing business. So if you don't have the ability to scale your warehousing processes quickly, you literally get into trouble. Because as you know, we've got clients who go from 0 to 25 million. They go from 0 to 30,000 orders. 30,000 orders literally in a period of 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to have processes in place to deal with that. If you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And when people are stealing from you, you can lose 20% of your stock through theft if the guys are like on it. It only takes them, they only have to push a couple of boxes a day out of the back door that you're not seeing, and you're in trouble. And again, that requires, there's a lot of things that come into that, but we'll discuss those now anyway.
Yeah. So I guess then the intention for what we want to do is, our clients start up businesses, let's say, don't have the capital to have these big enterprise warehouse systems, thousands of square meter space to house all the products. We may not have an idea of how to run these warehouses because this is so new. I've built this beautiful product that I know the market is going to love, but now I have to become a professional in warehouse management. Well, it's not my expertise. And then the other thing comes in where with these businesses, when they scale, those issues come there. So I actually want to address a whole bunch of these issues or these topics with you, so that just to provide our clients a little bit more insights into actually running these warehouses.
And the logistics side of the business. Yeah.
Okay. So let's speak about your experience and your background in this space. Let's touch on that. I think it'll provide a lot of credibility for the further discussion.
Okay. So in the late 80s, I was involved in starting and running a courier company. So in terms of the last mile fulfillment, I've been involved in that space, and I understand how that space works. I then, as you know, started Acorn Kids, where we ran our own logistics warehousing processes, and I learned a lot of very hard lessons there.
Yeah.
And we did that for a few years. We then moved into a third-party logistics company. So we moved into the Burco space, where we would ship the product into the warehouse. They would pick it back and ship it for us. Now, when I first moved into there, it seemed very expensive. But when I actually sat down and worked out the cost in terms of what it cost me to run my own warehouse versus pushing it in there, the difference wasn't huge.
Yeah.
And because it was a variable cost, when things were going well, okay, it cost me a bit more. But when things were going badly, it cost me a bit less because it's tied to sales.
Sure.
So I've been through sort of every different facet of the warehousing side of things. And I understand how those processes work end to end. I've done it myself physically, to the point of actually staff not rocking up and being in the warehouse doing the picking and packing myself. So, you know, I mean, we had a week when there were riots in Cape Town, and Heike and I were in the, you know, the sales kept coming in, and we were literally in the warehouse until 2 o'clock in the morning, picking, packing, and shipping products. So, you know, we have been through all of the different aspects of the warehousing space. So so I know how it works.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't factor into that of time. So when you're going to a third party supplier or a service provider like for warehouse, we don't factor into how much time it actually takes us to manage our own warehouse. So that time is money for us. And if if we are able to then utilize someone else's time so we can focus on growing the business, focusing on perfecting the products even further, you know, that's a better use of your time than having to worry about managing the warehouses.
Well, you've actually got there's three scenarios that when you're looking at warehousing, there's three scenarios. Scenario number one, you're really small.
Yeah.
Well, the fulfillment places, companies like the big fulfillment companies out there, they're not interested.
Yeah.
They want 300 orders a day. If you're not doing 300 orders a day, it's not worth it for them to have you in their space.
Yeah.
So your first thing is, okay, I need to pick, pack, and ship this product myself. And I've got I could store it in my garage initially because there's not a lot of product because we're not doing a lot of orders. At some point, though, if you're doing a half decent job, you're going to get some traction.
Yeah.
And so now you're in a situation where you have to make a decision, and you've got two decisions to make. Decision number one, I'm going to set up my own warehousing system. Decision number two, I'm going to go to a Parcel Ninja or what's a green in London. I can't remember now. It's got
yes.
We'll
put it up onto the.
Yeah, I'll put it up on the post. But you can go to a company like that, and you've got now some traction. You're doing 300 orders a day, and they will quote you for how much it'll cost you to do that. And then scenario number three, which is what I want to talk about today, is you can decide to set up your own warehousing operation, and you can handle your own warehousing and fulfillment yourself. So those are the three options. All of them are valid. When you're small, you actually have to do it yourself. You can't really. The cost of getting somebody to do it would be prohibitive, and you're trying to save every penny at that time.
Yeah.
As you start growing, then you decide, okay, do I go with a third party or do I do it myself?
Yeah. Okay. And the importances of fulfilling these orders. I mean, obviously you got clients through your e-commerce store or just hand-to-hand orders and purchases. Now, what are the importance of actually fulfilling that order? Fulfilling that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's imperative.
So the big thing here is that when somebody purchases off your website, they're entering into a contract. So let's say it's the first time they buy from you. So the first time they buy from you, their first question is, can I trust these people? Am I going to be scammed out of my money? What's happening on this website? They're putting their credit card in and it's disappearing into the ether.
Yeah.
And now they're wondering, am I going to get my product back? So that first fulfillment is critical. If you go back to the guy and first of all you deliver it a week down the road or 2 weeks down the road, the guy's irritated because he's used to getting it a couple of days' time. If the product doesn't arrive, there's a problem. If you have to go back to him and say, sorry, we're out of stock, there's a problem. And that first interaction with you is creating a trust. Once they bought from you once, getting them to buy a second time is not difficult because now they've bought from you, they know you, they trust you, they got their product, everything worked properly, and so now they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, so off they go. I mean, and it goes back. I have a personal experience here. I bought an item from a company in South Africa. An item didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come. I then went back to them and said, listen, I need my money back. And I couldn't get hold of anybody. And then finally, after about 3 months, I finally got my money back.
Yeah.
Now, other people have told me, oh, you should buy from these guys. They're really good. There's not a chance in hell I will ever give my money to those guys again as long as I live.
Yeah.
Because my experience with them was not great. And so the thing is that whole process needs to be flawless. Because if I give you my money and I don't get my product, that's it, we're done. You know what I mean? So it's more important just about than any other part of your business. It's more important than my advertising. It's more important than my messaging around joining the business. It's more important than anything.
Yeah.
You gave me my money, there's your product.
Yeah.
And it needs to be fast. So for me, that's the kind of key thing around the fulfillment. I mean, I know it sounds obvious. Probably everybody's sitting down saying, duh, of course.
Yeah.
But you'll be amazed. I mean, I've got clients who a week, 2 weeks down the road, they haven't delivered the product because they lost the order in the chaos.
Yeah. So having the right system to be able to manage that is just, it's imperative.
Yeah.
We need to be, you have one impression to make, one chance to make a first impression. And if something like warehouse doesn't allow you to fulfill that order within a day, 2 days, 3 days, well, then you are slowly losing this first impression opportunity.
Well, you've lost it.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
They'll never purchase from you
I
again.
mean, one of our clients who got themselves into trouble because they also went vertical fast. They went into the sort of 20 million rands mark.
Yeah.
South African client.
Yes.
Literally, they had an army. And I mean an army. They must have had 30, 35, 40 people sitting in their call center fielding calls from irritated customers who hadn't received their orders. The tickets and the calls, I mean, I've never seen so many tickets. I mean, the Netready system was absolutely flooded. The database just exploded with tickets of people who hadn't got their stock. And then you go onto their Facebook account and like everybody's bitching about the stock levels.
Oh, it's horrible.
And so they go from 25 down to 2 million because they couldn't fulfill. That just tanked their business. And so I think they dropped to about 6 or 8 million now. So they lost probably 2/3 of their turnover purely because they couldn't get the product into the person's hands quickly.
Wow. You're not just losing one customer. If they go into social media, which is so powerful in this day and age, you're losing brand credibility. You're losing your reputation.
Exactly.
And anyone else looking to enter your business or just purchase the product from your business is going to look at these comments and go, well, I don't believe this.
Yeah. And I mean, at the time, Netready, all we did was supply software. So we provided them with software and said, here's the software. We'll track your commissions and we'll do your tickets and we'll do your e-commerce side of things. And we'll provide you facilities and mechanisms to onboard networks, control your networks, pay out commissions, and keep track of it.
Yeah.
But we gave zero advice at all in terms of logistics and running your business. And that's one of the things that we kind of getting more involved in now is to say to our clients, hey, listen, have you thought of these things? And what are your strategies for actually dealing with these things moving forward?
For sure. I mean, this is why we have our Facebook Live events every single week. We want to keep the continuity of content going out there because there's what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And if that is going to ruin your business, you wish in hindsight, you wish you knew. But so
you don't want to find out what you don't know when you need to know it.
Exactly.
Oh dear, that's too late. You've got to be planning, not reacting. Because with most of our clients, because we have, I mean, they're coming from never having done this before. They have no insight. I mean, we were with a big client, massive company.
Yeah.
And I was talking to them about fulfillment. And they were like, just, we've got this. We know how to do it. We've been doing this for donkey's years. We've been in the retail space. We understand volume.
Yeah.
They didn't understand volume. And when this thing went, they were unable to keep up.
Yeah.
And it put so much pressure on their existing business that they shut the whole MLM process down because they just couldn't cope with the volumes. And so you've got to be really careful that you understand what can happen and be prepared. You've got to have strategies in place. If it doesn't happen, you don't want to go out and blow a whole lot of cash preparing for something that doesn't happen.
Right.
But if it does happen, you have to have strategies in place that you can implement the second you see this thing going. So that's kind of, I think, what today's all about is to give you an overview of what's needed and then to sort of provide you with some insights into what needs to happen to make those strategies or put those strategies in place.
Okay, so let's talk about the whole process. There's the warehouse and logistics, the fulfillment process. Let's start at the beginning so that we can paint a clear enough picture for someone wanting to run their own or looking to use a third-party supplier to run their warehouse, just so that they can understand each step of that phase.
Okay, so we'll put the third-party guys out of the way because the third-party guys, you ship them the product in bulk and you forget about it. Yeah. So that just happens. If you're running your own warehouse, the first thing that you've got to know is the process, what happens. So let's just take a flyby, a 30,000-foot flyby.
Okay.
So what normally happens in a warehouse is the product is delivered on pallets in bulk. So a truck will come, and depending on the size of the orders and the amount of volume you have, it'll be anything from a little courier truck to a Superlink that will come to your warehouse. Now, that is just something, I'm just going to put a pin in that, but you've got to decide on what kind of warehousing you've got and what kind of product you got, because if the business grows and you need to get a Superlink in there, you need to know that the warehouse you've chosen has got access
into the premises.
Into the premises
Right.
for the Superlinks. Otherwise, you can't get your stock into your warehouse. So
and your forklifts going up and down all day. It's
yeah.
It's a
And if
nightmare.
you've got an electric forklift, it goes up and down a little bit and then stops going up
It's
and down. And then you've got people trying to carry the boxes. I mean, the bottom line is that you need to know that you can get the Superlinks into the premises.
Yes.
So even if it's a small warehouse, you still need to have access there. So the product gets delivered by truck on pallet forms. So it gets taken off the truck with some sort of forklift, either a manual forklift or a motorized forklift, and it gets taken to receiving. Now at receiving, you've got a person who literally unpacks that entire pallet and scans every single item in their pallet to make sure that what the supplier says is in the pallet is in the pallet. Because your first point of failure is the guy says he's sending you 10,000 units, but you count it and there's 9,340 units. Now, there's a cost involved in those ones that are missing. So you need to know up front whether there's anything missing so that you can report back to him and say, listen, I scanned this pallet in. It didn't have 10,000 and only had 9,340 units. There's a shortfall here.
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's overruns, you need to be honest enough to tell them that there was more in. When we were running, I must just tell you this quick story, anecdotal. When I was running Acorn Kids, in the 5 years that we were packing stock, not once, in 5 years, did we ever put one item too many in a box.
Well, not that you know of.
I can tell you how many times we put too little in the box because I was informed of that all the time.
Yeah.
But if we packed too many, nobody ever mentioned it to us.
Of course not.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
first thing is you've got to make sure
Honesty.
that it's a two-way street there. Be fair
Sure.
to your suppliers.
Yeah.
You know, if there's too many, let them know. If there's too little, obviously let them know as well.
Yeah. And things like defective products.
Yeah.
Something's happened
Damaged
to
packaging, something burst.
Yeah.
The courier company or the trucking company dropped the pallet and 300 of the units actually broke or are damaged or whatever. All of that stuff needs to take account by receiving. And you should have a warehouse management system that allows you to track that we had this much shortages, this much damaged units, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So all of that goes in there. Now, one of two things happens at that point. Either they repallet the stock now that they've counted it and they put it into bulk storage. So let's say you've already got a full system in terms of your totes where you're picking and packing from.
Yeah.
You would stack this into the warehouse.
What's a tote?
So a tote is a little box that holds the products.
Okay.
And normally, depending on the size of the products, the totes will be various different size.
Okay.
And they sit on the shelf and they stack so that when you go to pack products, you can literally go to a physical location and pick the product out.
Brilliant. Wow.
Okay. So these things then, if they get put, there's a process called a put. If they get put into the totes, they get put into the shelves, then the way that the warehouse management system works is that they take them to a specific location. So there'll be an aisle location. Inside the aisle, there'll be a column location.
Yeah.
On the column, there'll be a row location. And the system will tell you exactly which tote on which aisle, in which column, in which row this item gets put. And you then put those products onto the shelves. Okay.
Brilliant.
Then what happens is you've got two characters. You've got a picker and you've got a packer. So what the picker does is he takes a trolley. On the trolley, there'll be anything up to 15 different totes. And he will have some sort of mechanism which will tell him what to pick and in which box to put it in. So he'll be picking 15 orders, up to 15 orders at a time, or she.
Sure.
So they walk around the warehouse, and the warehouse management system tells them what route to follow so that they do the minimum amount of walking, and they go around the warehouse and they pack 15 orders at a time. That then goes to a packing department. The packers then take those orders and rescan them into cardboard boxes for shipping. So they rescan them, they pack them according to whatever the the protocols are on your packing. If it's got sort of bubble wrap or whatever it is, gets packed into the box. It gets sealed, and then when it's sealed, they will push a button, and the system will print out a label, which gets stuck onto the side of the box, and then either it will go on a conveyor belt to dispatch, or with our smaller clients, there'll be what they call a runner, and the runner will pack all of the boxes that are being packed onto a trolley and will take them off to dispatch.
Sure.
And at dispatch, there'll be a guy who's literally, his task is to make sure that all of the boxes get packed into the correct courier company. So you might have 3 or 4 courier companies you're using if you're doing least cost courier routing.
Yeah.
And his job is to make sure that the correct boxes go to the correct couriers to get shipped out.
Okay.
So there's a whole process flow there.
Yeah.
So
It's a
generally,
process.
your smallest team will be somebody in receiving, somebody in dispatch, 1 picker, 1 packer, and 1 supervisor. That's the smallest team that I would have in a warehouse to ensure that everything's happening smoothly.
And when we scale, so when our clients start hitting that exponential growth period, I mean, when do we know when to add people in? Is it based on the number of orders that go through the system? Is it, and which personnel do we need to add on? I can't imagine we'd need to add on a warehouse manager. I mean, they'd oversee all operations.
Yes. Or a receiver or a dispatcher.
Okay, so
because one dispatcher can deal with tens of thousands of orders.
Yeah.
And also, in most places in the world, but specifically in South Africa, if you're doing great volumes, the courier company will put somebody physically at your warehouse to help you with the shipment.
Aha.
So they actually provide you with personnel to help you with that shipping. So, so the bottom line here is that the way that it works generally is that you know that an average picker and packer, the combination of a picker and a packer, can do 60 orders an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know that you can do 60 orders an hour. That equates to somewhere in the region of about 2 million rands a month in orders.
Yeah.
Now, what's that in dollars?
It's about 800,000.
No, it's 2 million. It's about $80,000.
80,000. Yeah.
$80,000. So an average picker-packer pair can do about $80,000 of picking and packing per month. So you know that if you hit the 2 million rand mark or the $80,000 mark, you're actually at capacity on that pair. And then it's time to add another pair.
Yes.
So you add them in pairs.
Okay.
You don't want the picker to be packing because that's when things go missing.
Yeah.
You want accountability, and you don't want the same picker-packer pair necessarily working together all the time because you don't want any collusion happening.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to be really careful about that, and you got to watch it like a hawk.
Okay.
But you have a picker-packer pair, and then you add them for every time you hit another 2 million rand break point, you add another picker-packer pair, and you can just scale those guys up, and it takes time to train them.
Right. I was going to ask.
Yeah, it takes time to train them, but you can actually work with them and get them up to speed fairly quickly because it's pretty systemized. It's pretty, plug and play.
There's a lot of shadow work happening as well.
Yes, they shadow for a while, and then they start doing it themselves, and they get watched by the supervisor. And when they feel comfortable, then off they go and they do it themselves. And because the packer's checking everything with the scanner, they're scanning every product into the box. They pick up very quickly if there's a shortage or an overrun. The system tells them instantly. So that's where you're looking at. And then in terms of how much space you need, because that would be seemed to me the next question.
Yeah.
You've got quite a low utilization of space within the warehouse because you need aisles to get forklifts down. So you need to have fairly broad aisles to get a forklift in, and the forklift's actually going to be able to turn and maneuver the boxes into the shelving.
Yeah.
And so you've got to actually have quite a bit of space. So normally you would look at about a 40% utilization in terms of actual racking.
Wow. Of your whole warehouse.
Of your
so
whole warehouse.
I'm sitting with 100 square meters. Only 400 is going to be...
100 square meters, 40 meters would be available for racking.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
So when you're putting together your warehouse, the actual physical layout of your warehouse, you've got to understand that you've got out of 100 square meters, you've got 40 square meters that you can rack. And now you've got a couple of options. The one option is to go up. And so generally, if you go into a warehouse, you'll see that these guys will go up 5 meters up with their racking. Okay, so now what they do is the first sort of 3 meters of racking, so one right at ground floor, the next one up, those are for picking.
Yeah.
So they'll put the totes into those, and the guys who are going around there will pick the product out of those totes.
Yeah.
Then above that, you would have another 2 racks. And in those racks, you would put all of your bulk or restocking product.
Okay.
So you'd put your pallets up there.
Yes. Okay.
So now you've got 40 meters, but on 1 square meter, you can have 5 cubic meters of packing space. So you've now got 5 cubic meters. If you had 40,
200.
40 square meters, exactly.
You now have 200.
You've got 200 cubic meters of packing that you can do. So if you're clever with what you're doing, you can pack probably, out of a 200 square meter warehouse, which is not a huge warehouse, if it's properly racked and properly systemized, you could probably pack around 20 to 30,000 orders a month out of that.
Wow. I've seen guys do where the bulk storage lies, the totes, so the shelving 4 and 5. I've seen them put a mezzanine level at the top there, which allows us to have greater packing space. And you're putting another 40 square meters above.
Yeah. So a lot of companies do that, but you've got to have, if you do that, the warehouse has got to have headroom.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of companies do is they say, okay, we need a place for the staff to have coffee and tea, etc. So let's rack up more of the bottom, and then at the 5 meter mark we have stairs going up, and at the 5 meter mark we can have our desks and we have coffee places, etc.
Yeah.
And they're very clever the way they do it. So in Acorn Kids we did this. We had very high headroom.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we went up, I think about 5 meters, and at the 5 meter mark, on the top of the shelving, we used the shelving as the load bearing part of it. So on top of that, we put flooring down. Yeah. Obviously, we got the engineers involved.
Sure.
And we used proper racking. I mean, we had heavy-duty racking.
Yeah.
And then we put the warehouse flooring down, and we put steps up there. So we could utilize all of our downstairs area purely for packing area, and then our staff could actually set up, have their coffees. We had our desks up there, etc. In that roof area on top of all of the racking. So that gave us a lot of extra room. And it didn't cost us a lot because we had to buy the racking anyway. It's not like we could get away without it. Yeah.
And then this is obviously not our game, but for the machinery that you'd use to run this warehouse, if you did it yourself, I mean, you need a forklift to move those pallets. But inside the warehouse, to get through, I don't think you can drive a forklift in between those. So you'd need something like I think it's called a telehandler. And a telehandler has the forks, and it's able to lift up to be able to pull those pallets off and then reverse. I mean, I love this part of the business, Richard. I must say, I actually wanted to build a house
that looked like a warehouse.
Yeah, because I could move for the drywalling, and I could. The creativity was just flowing.
Yeah.
But so coming back to that was a side note.
House in a warehouse sounds like a good deal to me.
There's a concept there.
Yeah.
And you have these machines. I mean, these things are. You're looking at about 4,000 to 7,000 rand per machine if you're going to be renting it.
Yeah, per month. Yeah.
Per month. So there's
I think
expenses.
that what you've got to be careful of is that when you get started, you don't want to get yourself into too much trouble, but you also want to make sure you have the minimum equipment that you need to operate.
Yeah.
And so, if you've got a small operation, you can get a 200 square meter warehouse. I mean, I don't know what the prices are internationally because I haven't looked, but in Cape Town, we've just been looking at warehousing. And you can get a small for like 200 square meters, 300 square meters for like between 15 and 18,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
So, and that's in Cape Town. I'm sure in parts of Joburg and Boksburg, the East Rand, wherever, you could get cheaper warehousing than that.
Yeah.
And so you can get inexpensive warehousing, and if you rack it cleverly and you utilize this place cleverly, then you can get away with very, very low overhead for like quite a nice bit of space.
And if we do the mezzanine concept, we can have office space sitting in our warehouse space.
Exactly.
So we double utilizing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right.
So we've spoken about when we scale, how many pickers and packers we have to add, and the information was $80,000 or 2 million rand. Each time we hit that mark, then we needed to start adding there was
Picker,
an alliteration you used there. Picker, packer, it'll come back. It was beautiful.
Okay.
I'll pop it onto the Facebook
Damn.
comment section. It will come back, I promise.
Okay.
But what I want to speak about now is
Packer, pair.
the picker packer pair. I mean, how cool.
Oh, there you go. Alliteration.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. You can have it. It's
Thank
yours.
you. I'll never claim those things.
Okay.
Those are yours, Richard.
Okay, thank
you. Let's talk about the warehouse management software that runs these. So now you can go out and if you're not a Netready client, you can go out and you can use third-party software to run every aspect of this warehouse. But if you're Netready clients, let's go into what our order management system actually offers.
Well, there's two scenarios. Okay, in the standard Netready package, there's a pure situation where you print out the order, you go and pick it off the shelves, you go and put it into a box and you ship it. It doesn't do any of the sort of the printing of the waybills. It handles none of that. I'm ultra small. I'm working out of my garage. I don't need a warehouse management system.
Yeah.
Once you start getting traction, we have a full-blown warehouse management system that we provide to our clients. You don't have to use ours. You can use anyone, obviously. But the idea is that this one connects or is fully integrated into the Netready engine. So when an order comes in, it tells the warehouse management system to pick it, pack it, and ship it, and they go through the process.
Yeah.
And when stock gets onboarded into the warehouse management system, the e-commerce platform is updated with the stock levels.
Right.
So there's a synchronicity between the Netready platform and the warehouse management system that is completely locked together. So basically it's another module within in Netready. And obviously it's not something that we sell to our small clients because when they get started they don't need it. But it is something that is available and that should definitely be in consideration. And I'll just go through some of the functionality there, if I may.
Of course, thanks.
Okay, so the key thing is, first of all, it's all driven by smart applications. So you literally, when something comes in, the products are scanned in. You then take them in and you scan the position on the shelves where you're putting it. And the system knows exactly where it is. And based on the incoming orders, because it knows where all the product is, it'll give you the least distance routing for the picker to go to pick these things.
Yeah.
So it knows your layout of your site, and it will know exactly where those products are. The second thing is when the product is picked, it gets scanned. So it gets scanned into the tote. So you scan the item, you scan the tote, it knows, okay, order number 1 belongs to this tote, the product goes into it. And so when you get to the packer now knows that when she scans this tote, she knows, okay, that's order number whatever. And she then scans each of the items, and the system, through the scan, will tell her if there's a shortage or an overpack. And so it tells her, it actually provides forced, what you call it, haptic feedback, if there's a problem.
Okay, it vibrates.
Yeah, it vibrates.
Yes.
So if she scans something that shouldn't be in the box, it's the wrong product, there's too many of them, whatever, it vibrates, and then on a tablet it will come up to say that item is incorrect, or that's an extra item that shouldn't be in the box, etc.
Brilliant.
So it warns her.
Yeah.
And it obviously reports that this has been overpacked. So there's actually a report that says it's been overpacked. So she's now packed it, so she knows that it's correct at that time. She then taps a button, and because it's integrated with the courier company, it prints out the waybill, and she literally sticks the waybill on, packs it up, puts it onto the conveyor belt or the trolley, and it gets taken to dispatch. At dispatch, as the courier company is collecting it, the dispatcher is scanning them one at a time, giving it to the courier company. And the system is updated that item has now been dispatched. It knows what the waybill number is, and that information is fed back into the Netready system to communicate with the client to say, your product is on its way, it's with this courier company, this is the waybill number, this is when it left our warehouse, blah, 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 blah. And the client can then track it all the way through to actually being delivered in their place. Now, that system is available anywhere, our clients, wherever they are in the world. And Netready would obviously be involved in the implementation of that for the client.
Yeah.
And then the pricing there also scales. So if you're very small, the pricing is going to be really low on a monthly basis. And then as your business scales, there's obviously a pricing scale that runs with that.
Yeah. Okay. You towards the end of this discussion, you got into that of fulfillment. Sorry, before I go into that, if you have any questions that you want to put into the Facebook comment section, please ask. We'll answer them at the end of the session. We really appreciate those comments. We spoke about the logistics,
The actual fulfillment.
the fulfillment side.
That's what they call last mile.
That last mile. We've done all this work. It's just that last mile that we have to cover.
Yes.
Now, in first world countries, there's not much issue.
Yeah, no, look, in the first world countries, you can use this thing called the post office. I don't know if you've heard of that concept.
I mean, I've heard of it.
So in South Africa, we don't know about that concept. But internationally, if I remember in the UK, companies that I bought from online posted the product to me. And you know what was really novel?
Okay.
It actually arrived.
No, never.
No, I swear to God, it actually arrived. Which, I mean, in South Africa, you would actually never, ever use the post office for doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, let alone sending anything via post.
Jeez.
So
losing post is like, it's like losing a sock or socks.
Yeah. In the post office, it's the whole sock drawer.
Yeah.
You go and look for your socks,
know.
whole drawer. I mean, somebody sent me, my mother-in-law got I mean, we're digressing here, but my mother-in-law got a Christmas card sent by her grandchild last Christmas, and it only arrived a couple of weeks ago. My daughter sent me our UK credit card via post. I don't know what she was thinking, but she sent it via post about 9 months ago. It still hasn't arrived.
Okay.
I doubt we ever get it.
Okay.
We, in the meantime, cancelled
it's
it.
11 months down the line.
No, it's not going to happen. So anyway, let's just take the South African scenario to start with. Okay. In South Africa, we've got a unique situation, and that is that 40% of our people, at least, live in squatter camps which don't have physical addresses, which don't have physical locations, where the courier companies are not even prepared to go into the area. They're not prepared to drive their cars into it.
Yeah.
So the situation is that for the vast majority of the people in South Africa, you can't actually deliver the product to them. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
So companies come up with all sorts of ways of doing the delivery, and one of the ways they do it is they have these things called collection points. So they'll allocate one of their people to be the collection point, and all of the network members in that area will actually go and collect from that person. But there's an institution in South Africa called Pago, which is doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they've set up collection points all over South Africa. They've set up collection points in the townships, at spazas, at all the sort of engine garages, pick and pays. All of the major retailers are involved in this thing.
Yeah.
And so the way that they work is that they give you a flat rate to anywhere in South Africa. And depending on your volume, it can be as low as 40 rands. Now, what's that in dollars? That's like...
just under $3.
Yeah, so $3 anywhere in the country.
Wow.
I mean, that is just like crazy cheap. So for 40 rands, a person can come online, they can purchase the product for 40 rands, they can have it delivered anywhere in the country. And obviously the person, it's a click and collect. So they say, this is where I want to collect it from on the system. They choose their location, pick and pay, or like for us, we get ours from the local engine garage.
Yeah.
They click the engine garage. When the item arrives at engine, Pago SMSs me to say your parcel has arrived. We tootle down to engine, we go and collect it. Now, if you're in the sort of in the squatter camps or the
informal markets,
informal settlements, then the situation is that you get an SMS, hey, my parcel is ready.
Yeah.
You zip along to the local spaza or to the local wherever you pick and pay, and you go and collect your product.
Yeah.
And it's quick. It leaves today, it's there tomorrow. It's like very fast. So, you know, from our perspective, we say to our clients, listen, forget about every other form of delivery in South Africa. You know, if you want to consolidate orders and have one person collect it from pick and pay, then fine. You know, and she can then go and distribute it to her people in the area.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the price, it just doesn't make any sense to use any other form of delivery in South Africa. Overseas, different story. First of all, you get really good courier rates.
Yeah.
I mean, really good courier rates. It's dead cheap in the UK and in the States and that to get something courier to you. So in that case, hell, send it to my door, no problems.
Yeah.
But definitely in South Africa, Pargo would be be the consideration.
Yeah. Okay. We're sitting in such a unique country. I mean, we're having to navigate all these things, and people listening out there that are sitting in the UK or the US going, but it has to be door-to-door delivery.
Yeah.
But because of this unique situation that us as South Africans face, that door-to-door, it shouldn't even be an option. We should have a door to central pickup points.
Yes. Yeah. And Pargo's actually slotted in and filled an incredible niche in the market. And it's one of the reasons that we're completely integrated with them from a Netready perspective, and the warehouse management system be completely integrated as well. So literally when an order gets placed, it's a flat rate, it's simple, everybody knows what it's going to cost them, doesn't matter where in the country they are. They come along, they buy it, it's going to take whatever, between 40 and 60 rands, and boom, it gets delivered to their front door. And not to their front door, to their nearest collection point, off they go.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I know, it's epic.
Yeah, they're great guys there.
Yeah.
And we've negotiated preferential rates for Netready clients, which definitely helps our guys. So yeah.
Hallelujah.
There we go.
Yeah. So kind of from a perspective of, let's just go back and just overview again, from a perspective of what we're doing in the warehouse management side.
Yep.
You need a warehouse. You need it to be properly racked. That's something that we need to just touch on.
Yeah.
You need a proper warehouse management system. You need proper trained staffing. You need a system that's integrated with your warehouse management system, so the entire process is automated. You don't want anything manual in this. And that is the only way to fulfill high volume orders.
Yep.
If you don't have that, it's just chaos. Honestly and utterly, total chaos. I wanted to mention racking. My pet flipping peeve here.
Let's.
So we have this client. No names shall be mentioned.
No.
I said to them, listen, guys, you cannot work like this. They worked out. I mean, this thing was just going. They had people literally sitting on the floors packing. I went into their warehouse and there was literally boxes lying everywhere. Just like, it was chaos.
Yeah.
And I said to them, listen, we have to streamline this process. We have to get this office racked up. We have to organize where the flow goes. We have to get everything working properly. Great idea. So I gave them the numbers of companies that do racking. I said, please, guys, get some proper racking. Let's get it up here. We need to go up at least 5 meters. We need to be able to store the bulk. We need to have repickers so that when you've packed in the day, you can have your night shift come up and restock all the shelves. We had an entire process worked out.
Yeah.
Excellent. About a month later, now we've got our shelves in. I go in there. It was like the most epic disaster.
Oh, no.
They got their brothers, cousins, friends, unemployed sister, who happened to have done some welding course to try and weld up shelves for them. I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
They were too narrow. The height distances weren't right. You couldn't adjust the height because everything was welded hard. The totes didn't fit in. So instead of being able to pack a cubic meter of stuff, it was just short, so you couldn't get the totes in. So so stuff was then lying loose on the shelves, and they were putting pieces of cardboard in it to try and keep everything in place.
I know.
Guys, you can't run a multi-million rand or multi-million dollar business unless you actually have the right tools.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier on, fulfilling is so important.
Yeah.
It's critical. If you don't fulfill, your people stop trusting you. They stop believing you and they go away. There's 1,000 other MLM companies out there desperate for that person's eyeballs.
Yeah.
You screw it up, they just go and join someone else.
Yeah.
Or worse, they go and tell everybody how terrible the multi-level marketing industry is.
Yeah.
You know? So my suggestion is, it costs a bit more, go to a proper company that does proper racking and tell them what your products are, tell them how you want to store the products, get their advice, get them to do the layout, get them to put the racking in. They've got mechanisms to make sure that racking is completely and utterly squared away, that it's secure, that it's not going to fall on one of your staff members' heads, that you're not going to have problems with injuries and things coming apart or welds breaking or whatever. You need to get proper racking.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend that as part of the process.
Yeah, agreed. Brilliant, Richard. Well, thank you.
How are we doing on our timing?
We are very good. We actually have 10 minutes to the hour. So
Whoa.
we've come in under. Hot stuff. Richard, thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. I think every week the content that you provide all of us, the information that you provide all of us, I'm learning. Everyone else out there is learning, so I really appreciate it. I mean,
It's a pleasure.
you can see the years of experience that you've had, and certainly being able to part all of that knowledge onto myself and everyone watching, it's invaluable. So thank you for this. I mean,
It's a pleasure.
it's a free resource. You know, people will pay a number of $100 an hour to have you sit with them and explain the stuff, and you're sitting with me every day, you're sitting with everyone here and giving this free information. So
It's my pleasure completely.
yeah, it's much appreciated. Great.
Awesome.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. That concludes another session, another week with Netready on our Facebook Live events. Please follow us on all of our channels. We're on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you can get notifications every time we release informative content just like this. We're also on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, and when you're sitting in your car, even if you have something to do, listen to us because we're on our podcasting channel on Spotify. We love having you here. Thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you next week.